Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you're listening or watching this latest episode of TurfCast podcast with me, Joe Redmond, and my super amazing, fantastic hunk meet of a friend, Simon Townley. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. You went full Steve Sham on me there, thank you.
I did, didn't I? As soon as I said the word hunk meet, I'm like, I've only got that of one person, and that's Steve Sham. Don't know where that came from. But how are you anyway?
I'm very well, thank you very much. It's a busy week. When's this going out? Before or after the Leicester game?
Before.
Well, I'm all good, mate. I'm excited. Looking forward to the Leicester game. There you go. That was my answer. I didn't know if I were allowed to say.
Yeah, fair enough. Are you excited, or are you just saying that?
No, I'm genuinely excited. We'll go into it a bit later on, but I'm excited.
Fair enough. You've been up to much then? You said you've had a busy week. What have you been up to?
Just planning everything, getting everything ready for work-related things of hair and football, and just enjoying watching a bit of footy as well. So I know we didn't have the best of games of the Burnley-related games, but Leicester's coming up, so something to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we'll get all the housekeeping and stuff out of the way, as we always do. If you're not already, please go and download the Pitch Sport app. They are, of course, the sponsors of TurfCast, and they've been working it out today. We've had them since like a year and 3 months now. And I've had no issues with them. No, they've been brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's been a pleasure to work for them. So if you haven't already, please download the Pitch Sport app. They've had a new feature on it now, which is something that I was aware that they were doing, but I didn't realise that they'd implemented it. But I think they've done it a couple of weeks ago now. So those of you that go on the app a little bit more than I do might be more aware. But it's called Foreplay, as in forward play, where you choose sort of like three results four. That's why it's called Foreplay. 4 results out of the Premier League games of what you think is going to happen. And the more of a risk you take, the more points you get. And then obviously you go into a league table. So if you predicted that Burnley were going to get beat by Spurs, you'd have got, say, like 50 points for that. But if you'd predicted that Burnley were going to beat Spurs, you might have got like 2,000 if that had happened. But then obviously, do you take the risk and try and get 2,000, or do you predict the odds and get a safe 50 points? Which is quite good. It's a shame that I'm a couple of weeks behind it, because I've done it this week for the first time. So I'm going to try and definitely do sort of like a TurfCast league on it next season. That'll be class, sort of like, and obviously we'll run a fantasy league as well, like we have done this year. This year it went a bit tits up because over 4,500 people joined it. So I've not really bothered with that this year. So if the people that listened to me earlier in the year where I said we'll be doing weekly updates on the fantasy league, we ain't done that because I'm not going to do a weekly update on 4,500 people. So next year we'll do that a bit differently. We'll have a 4-player league on the Pitch Sport app. So if you haven't already, please go and download it. They are our sponsors. Like I said, it's sort of like a fan hub app where you can sort of like speak to other fans. Simon, put that piece of wrapping paper down, please. You can speak to fans of your club, of other clubs. You can answer questions that I put every week, a fan time question. And of course, I've had one out this week where I will go over the answers very, very soon. But now that's done. I remember saying last week, the worst thing about a 0-0 draw against West Brom is the fact that you have to go and discuss it. Well, what's worse than discussing a 0-0 ball draw against West Brom is an absolute 4-0 annihilation to the hands of Tottenham Hotspur. And that's what we've got to do this week. At least this time, there's actual things to discuss, even if by the 15th minute, we might be just getting a bit fed up of slagging them off too much. But yeah, Tottenham Hotspur 4, Burnley 0. Simon, go.
Progression. Key word there. 5-0 last year, weren't it?
Yeah.
For this. So, sorry, I didn't realise you were looking out, looking away. 3 on the bus then. 4-0. It was progression. Do you know what, though? And I said it on the watch, and I'll say it again. Before I go into sort of too many negatives, that I think there were some positives from it, and I'll go into that in a bit. But like, just before you all get bored of thinking, oh, what's the point of listening to this? I feel like that as well. I actually think there's some positives to come out of it. But first, let's go through the goals. So you've got the...
I've just watched them. I watched them while waiting for you to join because I wanted to refresh my memory of how shite they actually were again.
Yeah. So the first goal comes on the left-hand side, if my memory serves me correctly. Dinked in. The whole Burnley squad, myself included, stopped as if to say it was offside. It was onside quite comfortably, not even a VAR check,
easily
because
onside.
it was that ridiculously onside. The ball was like a slow poked cross, if you will, bounced in. Nick Pope stood rooted because I think he thought, well, it must be offside because everyone else has stopped. And it was just easily finished. Game over there and then. 1-0 down in the first 2 minutes. It is game over, unfortunately. I don't know what you thought, but yeah, it was. I don't know what happened.
Well, we discussed it on the watch along, didn't we? So you've got the ball, like you say, coming down the left hand side, but our right hand side. So it was, obviously I know you said that, but just to clear it, I'm going, oh, okay, not right hand side, you were wrong. Yeah, our right hand side, their left hand side. And the first one, sort of like, he approaches Lawton, I think, who doesn't do anything wrong. He's in position, which is what you want from him. And he's blocked off the path of whoever it was to run down and whip the ball in. So he's then cut inside. I've got a little bit of issue with Brownhill not closing him down straight away there. So that's the first minor mistake. I won't really say it's a mistake from Brownhill. I just would have thought he probably could have done better and closed him down. Then there's the pass through, which, like you said, it's a ridiculously slow ball. And I've got another issue with sort of like Tarky going to ground far too easily. But again, it's one of them ones where he's tried to reach for it, I think, and then realised he's not going to get it. So there's no point in overstretching. So then he's gone to ground. Maybe his positioning could have been a little better, but he's probably got an eye on what's going on behind him, which again is fair enough. And then there's also, before I mentioned the third one, as you said, Nick Pope's just rooted to the spot. It would have been better if maybe he was a little bit on his toes. He could have come running out or been a little bit more aware. So there's 3 minor errors that if one of them didn't happen, the goal probably doesn't go in. But the main error, and let's be honest, we give Charlie Taylor so much praise on this podcast because he's been fantastic for 3 years at Burnley Football Club. But the major error is Charlie Taylor not coming back out quick enough, and he was the one that played them all onside, and that's the reason why the goal goes in. So there's a lot of errors in that goal. 3 minor ones and 1 massive one. But I feel if any of them, especially the massive one, doesn't happen, then the goal doesn't go in. So it's just a bad goal to concede from Burnley's perspective.
I think it's a difficult one, especially like Charlie Taylor. I can see down the line, if it was the first man or the middle man, you could probably forgive the fact that they're not. Because we're talking, half a metre sometimes is such a huge the position to be out of. You know what I mean? We're talking massive gaps with half a metre. But when you actually put it into perspective, it's not a great deal of space. But when you're at the back and you can see down the line, it is relative. I won't say it's poor, but it's just not being quick enough. And maybe it's because it's the first minute of the game. Maybe 10 minutes into the game, maybe 5 minutes into the game, he's gone his toes a little bit more. I think that ball shouldn't come in. That's my criticism of it, as opposed to dealing with it. But I just don't think anyone anticipated that kind of pass. I think that was the problem. I think we all expected it to be a whip or, cut back, maybe even have a run like you said at Lawton, but it wasn't. It was just like it's go on, fucking dink it in.
Yeah, I do think being the first minute, second minute, whatever it was, it is partly to do with it. That's why Brownhill gave an half-arsed attempt to block it, Tarky gave an half-arsed attempt to block it, and Charlie Taylor couldn't be arsed, and Popey were just not on his toes. Like I said, I do think that is part of it, but I don't see that as an excuse. That is a case of, well, you should be switched on from the first minute. It's the Premier League, I'd say. You have to be switched on for 90 plus minutes in the Premier League, or you concede goals, as we saw. And then obviously, I'll let you go through the second one. I can't actually remember the second one off the top of it. I know I've just watched them.
Yeah, we're going to say, you have to help me out here. Remember which one's which now. But yeah, we've gone 2-0 down then. How many minutes is it? 2-0 down? Like 10 minutes?
Yeah, it was quite quick, weren't it?
Yeah, it weren't a long time, and I think it was the Kane deflected.
Yeah, you're right. It was. Just let me double check.
So, yeah, my problem is the memory of it, which one went in when, because it was just sort of.
Yeah, Harry Kane on the 15th minute. So that would have been the deflected one. So it's the incredible ball from Bale that gets it to Kane. Was it Bale? It was Bale, weren't it? The incredible pass from Bale.
So what my problem isn't too big of a negative, but the problem with this is you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because we've gone 1-0 down, we've got hold of the ball, we've played it about a little bit, and then we've got ourselves in a decent position in their half of the pitch. Literally, we've done a cross, they've dealt with it, and within 2 passes, Bale has pinged it to Harry Kane, who had now got the whole left-hand side or right-hand side available to him, because Lawton's still up from the cross from the first pass, so he's got to now track back. Kane's gone, we've pushed him wide, you think, right, come on, we've dealt with this. He's leathered it, and then Poppy's ended up upside down with his head in the ground like one of them birds. I don't remember which bird it is. And I was like, what has happened here? And then you watch it, an ostrich, and then you watch it, and you look back at the replays, and you think, fucking hell, that little nick that was barely visible in real time because it was hit with such power has took it completely in a different direction.
I didn't realise it had taken a deflection the first time I saw it. I remember saying, how's Poppy gone down so easily there? That's not like him. But then obviously when you see the deflection, you understand why. Yeah, I've just watched it again. It is that incredible defence splitting pass from Gareth Bale. I remember a bit critical of Brownhill again, sort of like saying he probably should have stood his ground because he tries to sort of like do sort of like an old school John McGreal overhead kick as the ball's coming towards him and doesn't really get anywhere near it. Think he'd have got anywhere near it if he'd have stayed on his feet. Now looking back at it again, I'm just going to quickly watch it again now while I say this. Gareth Bale on my screen now, pinging it across. Yeah, he should have stayed on his feet. He should have stayed 100%. On his feet. I've just seen that. 100%. He should have stayed on his feet. Do I think he'd have got to it? Potentially not, but he could have forced Kane out wide. But Kane's got all the time in the world now to come inside. So yeah, Brownhill there at fault for me on that one. And again, it's one of them mistakes that you look at and you don't think it's overly ridiculous of an error at the time, but when you look back and you analyse a game, and I'm sure Dash and the boys will have analysed it, of course they will, and I'm sure exactly they'll pinpoint Josh Brownhill doing that. They'll say, you should have stayed on your feet then, and 100%, just watch it back again, he should have definitely stayed on his feet there. Because then, like I said, he couldn't force Harry Kane out wide, he doesn't have all the time in the world to come in. So yeah, Brownhill at fault for that one for me.
Yeah, I'll let you go into the third goal, which is the third goal in a minute, when you can remind me in a second, because the Brownhill one for me, I said it at the time, and I'm standing by it. I'm quite adamant that if he does not try and do an overhead kick, then that goal probably is it. Well, the position is still in Harry Kane's favour, but I still think we're probably more capable to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm just watching the replays all again now because I'm just quickly trying to get myself to the next goal. Yeah, the third one's the one that comes in again from our right hand side. So it's Bale in the middle, gets it out to, is it Reguin, how we pronounce it? Ball in. Yeah, he's decent. He's a decent left back. Ball in. It's one of them ones at first, just looking at it now, it doesn't look like there's much on because I've just got the position now on my screen where he's got the ball on their left. Everyone's in position. Brownhill's going towards him to put pressure on him. You got Lawton tucked in behind Brownhill. You got Tarky and Benme on the edge of the box, and then Taylor out wide.
Position. Everyone's in the positions.
Yeah, I say everyone's in the good positions. But then this ball, again, the ball's not even that good. But the problem is it lands in an awkward area for Tarky. That's the problem. If it were an inch further forward or an inch backwards, Benme or Tarky clear that all day long. But because it's the way where it is, Tarky tries to get his head on it and just sort of like doesn't get a good enough head on it and nicks it towards Lucas Moura, who then just one touch control and in the net. So Tarky, if you're being picky, but I think that's being harsh. I just think it's a case of if it were, it's just in an awkward place for Tarky. Everything just sort of like fell in their favour for that goal. If Tarky was an inch higher or an inch lower, that goal don't go in. And the same with the pass. If it goes an inch either side, that ball don't go in.
Yeah, you're taught early age as a defender, get your head on it. If he doesn't jump for that, he's criticised. If someone's behind him, he has to go for it. He has to get it. And I thoroughly think that he would have thought he could get there. Like you said, we're talking fine margins again, just minimal decision making. And he's jumped, he's nicked it. How many times do you see it where there's like a ball whipped across? Defender gets a toe on it, deflects it a millimetre, and they go, "Oh, that touch there is what's took it away." From
exactly, yeah. But this time it's just gone in their favour.
Exactly. It's that minimal. And I think that to criticise the attempt is unfair, but obviously the fact of the matter is you're either a hero or in this case you're a zero on that scenario. So yeah, that's the third goal.
Yeah, I feel that one was a little bit unfortunate. I don't really want to blame anyone for that one. But the fourth goal, so it's Son that picks it up on our right-hand side there left. But problem is at the minute here, now we are out of position. I've just paused it. He's already past Lawton. He's past Brownhill. He's past Corker. And it's essentially 3-on-2 here as it's Son with the balls coming down. and he passes it. And now because of that, because he's got past Lawton and past Brownhill, all the players, the Burnley players, have sort of like moved over to the right-hand side, the Burnley right-hand side. That leaves Gareth Bale in absolute acres of space over on our left, their right. Touch, smashed it into the bottom corner. I mean, I did give a throwaway. Yeah, it's a good finish. But he has all the time in the world, but we just got caught out of position too easily there with that one.
Yeah,
that was the problem with that.
3-0 down, you've got to take some sort of risks if you're going to have any chance of getting back into the game. You could say the game's over with them, but we'd be pissed off if they didn't make an effort, and we'd be pissed off if they weren't pushing on and trying to get a goal. But at the end of the day, we got caught out of position. But what a strike it was by Gareth Bale. 2 goals and assist. It was unplayable that day, and fucking right was one of them games where it's against us.
Yeah, it always seems to be the case, doesn't it? I remember talking to a couple of Tottenham fans on a couple of Tottenham preview shows before the game. They were talking about how Gareth Bale's not really done so well so far, but it's looking like he's going to play against us, and obviously he did. It did look like he was going to play against us because they played against Wolfsburger in the Europa League on Wednesday before our game. And I could tell that Bale were going to start because he came on against West Ham that Saturday. I can't remember the played the previous week, but he came on in the last 15, 20 minutes and he was really, really good. And then he got dropped for the Wolfsburger game, and everyone was saying, I don't understand why he's not playing him, but I just thought it's obvious that he's going to stick him in to start against Burnley. And after, 100 seconds, that decision was very, very justified.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. He came on and did well against West Ham. In the words of Roy Keane, he put in a corner. And if you didn't watch that rant, if anyone hadn't watched it on Sky Sports, Jamie Redknapp and Roy Keane having a go at each other for Spurs being a poor team with poor players, and none of the top 4 will touch any of them other than Kane, Son, and Bale. I don't think I was
going to say, I think they would. It's just Bale's had a poor few seasons because he's been concentrating on playing golf rather than playing football. But the quality's there, and I think he's shown that again against us. All right, he didn't do it against the top side. He did it against a struggling Burnley side. But I do still think he will find his form again because
I think he will. And he has done it not just against top sides, against the best sides. He's done it. Do you remember that goal he scored for Real Madrid? I mean, we're in the wrong podcast, but that goal he scored for Real Madrid when he took on Barcelona and he ran off the pitch. And
there's a goal against Liverpool in the Champions League final, the overhead kick. The quality's there. He just needs to find it again.
It needs consistent games. But going to the Burnley performance, this is the positive side of it. I was thinking to myself, we've played all right. And I looked at the stats and I had a look at it afterwards because I thought we've had the ball far more than I anticipated. I think it was 46%, if memory serves me correctly. Which is a half.
We did, because there were a couple of chances. When we went 1-0 down, I felt that we responded well to it. Admittedly, we went 1-0 down, and not long after we were 2-0 down. We could have easily already been 4-0 down at that point. But in terms of creating chances, for the first game, since the Palace game, to be fair, we actually looked okay going forward.
Yeah, and we created, I think we had 10 shots, 3 on target, which is half of Burnley. Let's put his hands up there. That's 3 shots on target away from home.
We got none against West Ham, a 10-man West Brom, and a 10-man West Brom. So 3 against Spurs away from home is absolutely oxygen levels.
Exactly. Vidra had 2 or 3 chances. He never even got the shot away, and they walked out on any sort of start. So I think that there's a lot of positives to come out of this game, and people might think, you're talking shit, Simon. But another day, another strike partnership, which we can go into if you want. But I think we could.
Let's not. We've done that. We've done that to death. Although we will discuss it slightly because coming up, Chris Wood's back. But we'll go into that for the Leicester game.
But do you know what my biggest concern were from this match? And it wasn't the strikers. It was how exposed we are on that right-hand side. And it isn't because Matt Lawton, who's for me a contender for player of the season at the minute, it's because Brownhill, and I'm saying it in a sympathetic way. I'm saying it in the way of Brownhill's in danger of becoming a new Jeff Hendrick. If we keep playing him out of position and we keep giving it, the fans will eventually think, do you know what, he's fucking shit. And they'll start getting on his back like they did with Jeff. Now, Jeff did a job, but he was always shoved on the right-hand side and he was always the scapegoat when it was going shit. And Brownhill is in danger at the minute of becoming a right midfielder or he's not playing. In which case, he's not good enough.
Yeah, he's not good enough in right midfield. He's a totally different player. He's obviously a central midfielder. I feel a lot of it we're exposed because he naturally comes into the middle, and then it leaves. He's a central midfielder, so of course he's going to do. So it naturally comes in the middle, and then you've got Dwight hugging the touchline on the other side, and then Josh coming in the middle. Josh coming in the middle. So you've gotten zero balance to the side. So then Dwight himself compensates by coming a little bit narrower, and then we're just exposed down both flanks. But yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm not sure if people will turn on him, because I think people understand that he's been class in the middle, and I think a lot of people do want him in the middle. Again, we've had this debate a million times. Who do you replace him with? We've had that debate. But the middle two against Spurs were shocking. So is that now maybe a chance of him coming back in the middle? Probably not, because we don't have anyone to go out wide. We discussed the problem on the right midfield a couple of podcasts ago, and I said, look, I don't necessarily want to see Lowton moved into right mid because he's doing so well at right back. But I think I'm maybe coming down to that sort of way of thinking now, because I don't think Lowton and Bardsley, if that was the right-hand side of midfield, would be as exposed as Brownhill and Lowton. I think Lowton will do a better job because he's naturally more defensive, so he will come back. And then going forward, we have that balance. I don't know. I think maybe it might be time to try something like that, because Josh Brownhill, it isn't working at right midfield for him. But I do feel for the lad. I'm not criticising him. Yeah, I do think he should be in the middle of the park.
And I just want to clarify that's exactly why I made the reference of we turned against one person because he was being played out of position. And this is another thing. We can see that Brownhill's probably better in the midfield. Well, definitely better in the midfield. But on the right, let's be fair, Dwight's not fucking 10 out of 10 for coming back and helping defensively. He's also laboured sometimes when it comes back to defensive duties. So when you've got two of them not pulling back in them defensive duties, you are going to get punished. However, the worst thing we could do right now is change that back four. So if you start putting Lotz on the right midfield, we conceded 4 goals against Spurs. We only conceded 4 goals in the rest of February, as we just entered March, and we played Man City in that month. So I don't want to be too critical of the defensive shape, because I think the defensive shape is fine. Let's just leave that as is. Where we do need massive upgrades and changes is in midfield, because we're not creating the chances. We're barely getting them. We're barely getting the strikers involved because of midfield, in my opinion. And now we're creating gaps at the behind because Brownhill's on the right hand side when he should be probably.
Yeah, obviously the problem at the minute is there's nothing else you can do. So if you don't want to change anything in terms of the right hand side, which is fair enough because Lowton's doing well, then it is going to be Brownhill again. So it's catch-22. You either try and change it up and stick Lowton in right mid and drop Brownhill and Bardo at right back, or I know a few people have suggested putting Jay on the left and things like that, or Jay on the right. Sorry, he's done it before. Would that work? Again, I think we're going to have a similar sort of issue there. I think he's more attacking minded, so he's going to naturally go forward, and we're going to be exposed on the right. Personally, what we need is a right midfielder who isn't made of glass, like JBG. We've discussed it time and time again on the podcast. Is it time to get rid? And every time he comes back into the side, everyone's like, well, no, look at how much quality he has. But then we're left with situations like this where we're exposed because of his injuries. But the right-hand side of midfield has been an issue at Burnley for 3-4 years now. And for some reason, we just haven't sorted it out. So it definitely needs changing.
Yeah, but again, just to highlight my opinion of it, I do think there's some positives in that game. 4 goals in one game sounds horrific, but again, we only let 4 goals in prior to that in the whole month of February. I think there was 4 games in total there, and 1 against City. I think we played well. We had a lot of the ball, which I didn't expect us to have, and we created chances for once. So, albeit we didn't put them away, and albeit probably not enough, but you're playing again. Look at the players that scored, mate. Harry Kane, Bale, and Lucas. I think some of the best clubs in the world would struggle to keep one of them out. Never mind all 3 of them.
Yeah, fair enough. Speaking of positives, though, Lewis Richardson, he only came on in the 88th minute, something like that. But he looked a bit of a live wire coming on. I mean, I've seen some suggestions on Twitter already that he should start against Leicester. Let's be honest, that's a typical sort of like that. What were the people calling for Mumbongo to start not long ago as well? It's a similar sort of vibe. He looks okay, but he's one for the future. Will I start him against Leicester? Absolutely not a chance. But he looked good coming on, didn't he? He actually, to be fair, he did do a lot more. He looked a lot more energetic. He tried to get forward a bit more than some of the players had done for the majority of the match. So he looks a good one. He won 2 corners.
Looks good, mate. It looks really good, exciting. He has a lot more. Dare I say, it looked a little bit more intelligent with the ball than Mbongo does. He looked like he had an idea of where he wanted to go with it, as opposed to just using his power. Looks a little bit lightweight, but that will change hopefully in the future. I believe Spurs wanted him last season, mate. I believe Spurs wanted him last season, so he obviously has some promise. But that going back to Mbongo, not to be critical, scored 2 in the under-23s this week.
Yeah, and Lewis Richardson got one as well. So, they both look like they're going to be decent players going forward. I think Mbongo, like you said, he just needs to be a little bit more aware of what he's doing. And Richardson as well. I'm sure he has stuff to work on. I've not seen enough of him. I've only seen him play for like 2-3 minutes. But yeah, the future's bright. The future's claret. Maybe I'm grasping at straws a bit there, but yeah, put it this way: if we got relegated in like 2 seasons, I think them two could do a job in the Championship anyway. From what I've seen so far.
When was the last time you saw 3 kids coming out of a Burnley season? Benson, I know these are signed, by the way. Benson, Richardson, Mbongo, Glennon.
It's good to see, definitely. Like you say, I was going to mention there's Glennon as well, and then there's a couple of defenders as well, whose name I forgot. Max
Jimmy
Thompson
Dunn.
as well. Louis, So there's a few decent kids at the club. I think it's fair. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, which was probably another transfer window where we didn't sign anybody of note, because we haven't signed anyone of note since to go straight into the first team since we signed Chris Wood, and he's been here for ages now. I remember a couple of seasons ago, they signed about 20 under-23 players, and they kept putting on the website, new signing, so-and-so, who's 16. I remember going, what are you doing? Sign some first teamers. But I think now, all this investment in the facilities, into the kids at the club, is finally paying off.
Well, it's worth saying, mate, because he gets enough criticism. But I forget his name. Forgive me, but everyone who knows me knows I struggle with names. The guy who was employed. I know. The guy who's employed as a director of football.
Mike Rigg.
Matt Rigg. That's his role. His role is to get these people in, and in the last, I've never seen so many people coming through the ranks. Granted, we're down to bare bones, so that might be a coincidence, maybe. But I'm seeing a positive return on an investment of Matt Rigg at the minute. Well,
that's the positive of having so many injuries, if there is one, is you get to see these kids coming through. Dwight McNeil wouldn't have got anywhere near the first team when he got near the first team if it wasn't for injuries. He might have still not been anywhere near it. Yeah, exactly. He might have been sold off to somebody like Fleetwood or Preston. By now, we might have never seen him. So hopefully it's a similar sort of thing for Lewis Richardson, and he gets a run in the side in the next couple of years. Fingers crossed. Anyway, that's it from our opinion of the shambolic performance, or in Simon's little positive spin, shambolic but a little bit positive going forward, and had more of the ball performance down at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But as usual, we had a fan reaction sent in. So this is what Anti-Football had to say on the Tottenham defeat.
Anti-Football, eh? So another bag of shit for Clarets, weren't it? I don't know, another bad day at the office. Bloody rubbish, weren't it? We can't be giving these top teams a bloody head start, can we? We did it with City. Now with bloody Spurs, quickest goal ever scored against us in Premier League. It's bloody no good, is it? We struggle to come from behind against any bloody side. So against these top teams, we ain't got a big in prayer, have we? So I have to admit, I kind of switched off to the game after that. I thought, oh, well, there we go, that's that game gone, And I weren't really following it, But at least I was switched on from bloody kick-off. Unlike most of the pigging team, It's not good enough, Get your act together, lads. Eesh. But I tell you what, I perked up a little bit at 2-0. Because when Kane scored, I thought, oh, well, I predicted before the game 3-0, I said, to Spurs, obviously. With Bale, Kane and Son. I thought, oh, bloody hell, if Son scores here, I'm thinking I should have put a bloody bet on. I'm not a gambler, but, sometimes you think, oh, I might as well have done. Get something out of the game for myself at least. But anyway, Lucas put paid to that, didn't he? And then Bale and took it 4-0. So, so we weren't really watching game. I were on one of them watch-alongs on internet, on Zoom, with a few girls from knitting club. You know, we have a little natter on there. They're not into football like I am, but you know, they watch as well, and we just have a natter, you know. And you know, when we were you know, having a look at strapping young fellas out there, you know. Hey, that's a bit of a bonus for us women, you know, when we're watching football. And gay fellas and all, you know, if game's a bag of shit, you can just start perving at players and go, wouldn't mind a bit of that. Even Gareth Bale with his man bun. Get hold of that. Come on, Gareth. Yeah, so, you know, we were amusing ourselves with that, me and girls, and you know, we were thinking, like, are we going to be safe, you know, like, thinking about rest of the season. And I was saying, oh, come on, I think we can manage 3 wins out of next 12, can't we? Of course we can, eh? I think that's what we'll need, 3 wins, and we'll be safe, I think. One of the girls was saying we only need 2. She reckons 2, she don't reckon Fulham will get more than 34 points. Well, I hope she's right anyway, you know. Just, but we need to book us bloody ideas up, don't we? But before the game, I want to get in a bit of stick on Twitter, you know, Twitter twats, you know, because I said 3-0, like I say. And but you know, I was just being honest, you know, you kind of get a feel, don't you, going into a game with what's going on with other teams. You know, Spurs have been through a bit of a rough patch, and then they play right well in Europe, don't they? Bale's coming back to somewhat like top form, and Jose's been on one of his worst runs ever as a manager. You think, well, that's not going to carry on, is it? I just felt, you know, we're gonna get a spanking there, and we did. You know, and Dyche said something similar after the match, didn't he? He thought same. So you wonder if that's you know, transferred to players and all in back of the mind. Even though he said he didn't say no, you know, everyone's thinking it, aren't they? Anyway, I feel a lot different going into Leicester game. Ooh, yeah, I think in there, because it's a sticky patch, haven't they? Just last week, shit in Europe, and they've got beat by Thars, and got a few injuries as well, haven't they? Barnes is out, and Madison Avenue, him and someone else. So, I'm confident. Well, I reckon we're going to have a 1-0 win there at home. Woody's going to come on. I reckon he's going to start next game, you know. Yeah. Woody will start and we'll win 1-0. There you go. You've heard it from your auntie. Lump on. All right, that's me for now, Clarets. Take care of yourselves. Ta-da! Do-do-do-do. Anti-football. Do-do-do-do. Anti-football.
Right, there you have it. Big thank you to Anti-Football for sending his or her fan reaction in. Obviously, we usually have a bit more. I'll be fully transparent as usual. We only had 1 sent in, which because we usually have 4 regulars. But this is why I'm always asking for more and more people to get involved, because there is every now and then a week where, you know, because normally the regulars are Anti-Football, and we've got Neil, we've got the New Zealand Clarets, and we've got, sorry, mate, I forget your name, but the Higsinator he's called on Twitter. But for whatever reason, 3 people couldn't do it this week, which is totally fine. Obviously, you're not contracted to do it. So, but that's why I want more people to get involved. So in case there is one of these weeks where a few people can't do it for whatever reason, if they have personal reasons or they're too busy, then we've always got enough to fall back on, so I can still put a video out and still add a bit of context to the podcast with a fan reaction. But fan reaction was poor. I've managed to do a pre-game show this week. So later on in the podcast, you will hear from a Leicester City fan on his thoughts ahead of the game this week on Wednesday, or the time you're listening to this tonight, because it's going out on Wednesday. But yeah, the next part of the podcast is the part where we have a look at the fan time. Of course, we have our fan time question, which we put on the Pitch Sport app, which is on the bottom of your screen now if you're watching on YouTube. And like I said, what we do is every single week I upload a question to you, the Burnley fans, to try and get your response. And the deal is, if you respond to this question on the app, I will guarantee that your response is read out and discussed on the podcast. So this week, the question was, and me and Simon have already discussed it, so I'm not going to put Simon under the bus this time. Are you happy with Burnley's points tally from the last 3 games? Now, I asked this before the Spurs game. So the West Brom game, the Fulham game, and the Palace game. Yeah, so we got 5 points from them 3 games. Which, yeah, me and Sam have already discussed it, to be fair. But we had a couple of responses. First of all, Lindo says, if you would have told me before the 3 games that we would get 5 points, I would have snapped your hand off. 3 massive games in such a short space of time. I am glad that Dyche rested the players in the cup for these 3 games up the Clarets. So he adds a little bit of sort of a different point there about the ball game. Yeah, well, I think we said we were happy with him resting him. I think we said we wanted to take it seriously. It's one of them. It's a tough one. That I can understand why he did it, but I would still like to see him take it a bit more seriously. But the reason why he doesn't take it that much seriously is because of lack of squad depth. And if we had consistent players coming in, he would be able to do both, but he couldn't. Anyway, that's a different debate. And Shri, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, SHRI, says, I'm pretty happy with that, actually. We could have done better, but we could have done much, much worse as well. So no reason to complain, 100% positivity. And what I like about this is they both end with UTC. So up the Clarets, lads. Nice. There isn't a fan time question on there on the app at the minute this time. I know I said what I'm going to try and do is upload it before we record the podcast so we can then promote the question on the podcast. But obviously we're playing Leicester soon, so I want to wait until after the Leicester match before I send my question in. So I'll be sending my question in probably Thursday morning. So keep an eye out for that. And if you haven't got the app or you don't go on the app enough to sort of like see when the fan time question comes in, don't worry. If you follow us on social media, we do put the question out on there as well, but we sort of like advise you to go to the app to answer it, because then if you don't answer it on the app, you don't get your response read out. Anyway, coming up next, as we've said, is the Leicester City game. So it's a bit of an unusual one, this one, because normally I'd be going into this one thinking, Leicester are a good side, to be fair, so we're going to have a very, very tough game against it. But their injury list is pretty extensive at the minute, so maybe there's no better time to play them.
Yeah, you can't say it better than that, mate. No better time to play a team like this. The back of a deflating defeat, and I mean that in the terms of they were 1-0 up, quite far in, and 3 goals conceded. They deflated. They got two big injuries. I believe that Vardy were limping around for the latter parts of the game as well. Yeah,
well, obviously, apparently Vardy is a 75% chance of playing, but his goals have dried up recently as well. So even if he is playing, he's got a knock and his goals have dried up. Apparently, he's never fully recovered yet from a hip operation that he's had. So that's what the Leicester fan says that you'll hear from later in the show. So yeah, Harvey Barnes is out. Maddison's out. There's loads of Pratt's out. The lad that they signed from Newcastle's out. The injury list is just ridiculous.
Justin's out, yeah. He's been playing well. Justin's out. And then, they've got some class players. Maddison can turn a game. He's their Grealish. He's their playmaker. He makes things happen. There's a few players at the minute fighting for that position of number 10, and he's one of them for England. For the Euros, he's that big of a player. So, massive positives for us. Don't want to see anyone injured, I don't mean it in that term, but if you're going to play him, now's the time to play him. So we had relatively good results against them at home in recent times. Big performances needed. Don't get me wrong, it's not a given. It's not going to come to us just because they're injured. They've still got enough of a team, and from what I'm hearing behind the scenes, Rodgers is an incredible coach. So I'm sure they're all well drilled and know their roles, even if they're not the first teamers. So yeah. We've still got a job to do, but what a better time to play.
Yeah, but it's one of them though, isn't it? We've been on a little bit of a poor run of form if you go for the last 3 games. I know we didn't lose the 2 games before the Tottenham game, but obviously the Tottenham game, as we've already discussed, we were opened up far too easily, too exposed and all that sort of stuff. Then there's the Fulham and the West Brom games where, we didn't get beat, but We weren't really creating enough. So if we were going into this game on a decent run of form with, without playing square pegs in round holes like we are doing in right mid, I'd be quietly confident. And we'll get into the prediction later on. Maybe I am still a little bit quietly confident. But I'll be going into it like feeling, we can do these. But now I'm a little bit unsure because, we haven't been playing too well recently.
I think we can do them. I still think we can do them. Again, just the advantages are on our side at the minute. In the last 5 games we've lost 2, and they were against City and Spurs. But we have to respect that Leicester are fighting for second place at the minute. So if you're getting beat against Spurs, then Leicester surely are a team that we need to consider as good as, if not better. It's a serious contender, but I still think at home, for some strange reason, we can beat anybody. You can bring back. I don't know why. I've got this unbelievable optimism at home. You bring Barca to Burnley, I think you struggle. I
think, it's weird. I agree with that. I do agree with that. Not so much as much this season, probably because of the lack of performances, and we had some poor results at home this season. The Southampton one, I know they were doing well earlier in the season, but it was still a very poor performance. Springs to mind, but especially with the crowd there, I do think we can beat anyone. But obviously, we go back to last season. The last time we played Leicester at Turf Moor, 1-0 down. They were absolutely flying in that game. They were all over us. Got a penalty. We thought, here we go. 2-0 up. I think it was still the first half. If not, it were quite early in the second half. 2-0 up. They're going to go on to absolutely cruise this game because they were in a similar position last season, weren't they? Fighting for the top 2, fighting for the Champions League. Obviously, Vardy stepped up, took the penalty. Missed it. No, he didn't miss it, sorry. Nick Pope saved it. Let's get that right. And then we went on and won the game, and we won the game quite comfortably as well. Now, I look at that season, last season, and think we had a poor start, a little bit indifferent in the middle, then a really good latter part of the season. Now, that game is the bit where I can pinpoint where the season turned around, and more specifically, that save from Nick Pope is where that game turned around. So save from Nick Pope is practically where last season turned around. So fingers crossed we can have some of that again tomorrow.
Yeah,
tonight, if you listen to this on Wednesday.
Hopefully, mate. Do you know what? I missed that game last year. It's one of the only games I missed at home. I was working in a hotel in Manchester.
It's probably one of the favourite games, if not the favourite game from last season. Well, Man United away, obviously, but one of the favourite games from last season.
My now 12-year-old son was on the game, and I'm working at a conference with hundreds of people, and I'm meant to be going on stage any minute, and my phone keeps ringing in my pocket, and I'm like, hello? And he's going, Dad, they've got a penalty, but Nick Pope just saved it. Oh my God! And he's so he got it. Dad, we're winning. I'm like, don't do it on stage, shush. I've got to go. I'm like, but I'm answering it. You might think to yourself, why is he answering it? I'm like, because I actually do really want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I hate that. Mate. I can't answer the phone. If someone rang me that was on the turf and I wasn't on the turf, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd get that like feeling of you missing something in your heart, and I'd just be like no. Especially if it had been such a good game like that one.
Yeah, well, he gave me a fault like, Dad, we're 1-0 down. Dad, they've got a penalty. I said it, Dad. And then he just went on. And one of the games, one of the highlights of the season, one of the highlights of Premier League football for Burnley, coming down from 1-0 to 2-1 to turn the season on its head at the time. I missed it, unfortunately. So hopefully we get one tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I'll take a shithouse 1-0 first minute, sit back for the next 87, 89 minutes, whatever. I don't care. We just need 3 points. If we get 3 points tomorrow, it'll kickstart the season and we'll stay up. Do I still think we'll stay up? Yeah, we'll revisit that debate in a few weeks if we've lost all 3 of the next games. We'll see where we're at in terms of Fulham because they've got a bit of a tough run. But if we get 3 points tomorrow, then you pretty much put us in the Premier League next season. But yeah, that's what we think of the Leicester game. In fact, before I do that, Simon, your prediction for the Leicester game?
2-0 Burnley. Chris Wood.
2-0. See, I'm going 1-0 Burnley. Burnley. I do think we'll do it. Which is strange coming off the back of that Tottenham game. And obviously, I see loads of people's comments on stuff that we put on TurfCast. Obviously, I pretty much read every single comment. And a lot of people are like, if you think we're going to get something out of that Leicester game, you're stupid. Because we've lost against Spurs at Spurs, which everyone expected us to do. And we did quite comfortably last season and probably the season before that as well. But I think we'll win. I just think Leicester, there's no better time to play Leicester. Vardy's not scoring. Famous last words. It was like a goal against Burnley. Vardy hat-trick now. Vardy's not scoring. Barnes is out. Maddison's out. Pratt's out. Justin's out. The lad that they signed from Newcastle, whose name I still haven't remembered, is out. So there's just so many people out. There's no better time to play him. And I think one of them games like when Burnley's back's against the wall, that's when they tend to come out fighting. I think at the minute now they've been pushed back into a corner again. The back's against the wall. I think tomorrow we'll see a typical Burnley under Dyche performance where you just come out, bully away to a 1-0 win, and then go off the pitch and everyone's happy again because everyone were depressed after the game against Spurs. But that's what me and Simon thought about the Leicester game anyway. As mentioned, I've managed to do a pre-game show this week. Not working as much this week, so I've only done 30 hours at work this week instead of the standard 50. So I've managed to squeeze a pre-game show in for you. I spoke to Chris from Leicester Till I Die TV, and this is what he had to say ahead of the game at Turf Moor against the Foxes. Talk to me about your current injury situation, because it's quite an extensive list, isn't it? And I wasn't aware how bad the list was. I saw that Harvey Barnes went off injured at the weekend against Arsenal. And although it's weird, like we kind of like Harvey Barnes in Burnley because obviously he's the son of Paul Barnes and he was born in Burnley. But a lot of us are sort of like thinking, oh, well, that's very good news for us because he's a very, very good footballer.
It is good news for you.
Yeah. So talk to me about that injury list because it is quite extensive.
Pull a chair up. Get a drink. Here we go. Are you sitting comfortably? Yeah, I mean, it is good news for you as much as you don't want to see any player being injured.
Yeah,
excuse me. Jamie Vardy hasn't been on fire recently. He's not scored for a while, but it kind of got glossed over because even when he plays, he takes a couple of defenders with him. And you had Maddison and you had Barnes who were knocking the goals in from behind him. Maddison's out. His natural replacement, Dennis Pratt, is also out. So we're having a problem with that number 10 role. Harvey Barnes, as you saw, went off. He's having to have an operation on his knee, so it might even ruin his England chances.
Yeah, that is a shame. I was looking forward to seeing him in an England shirt.
Iosi Perez, he could probably do that number 10 role. He's out. Fofana, he's certainly out. He's not going to be back for Wednesday, and he's been a revelation since we bought him. Jamie Vardy's still, he's not 100% from his hip hop. I prefer garage, but he likes hip hop. He's 75% chance of playing, so fingers crossed for us for that. Johnny Evans, he went off. He's 50%. He went off with a little bit of a niggle. And where's Morgan? So I think we've got a few tea ladies that could pull a shirt on and play for us.
Yeah, well, I think I said on your podcast, didn't I? It's going to be the battle of the walking wounded because obviously you're on about putting tea ladies out. At the minute, we've had to put a couple of youngsters on. We've got a lad called Joel Mumbongo who's had to play up front a couple of times for us, admittedly coming off the bench, but still. And Lewis Richardson, he came off the bench against Spurs at the weekend. He does look one who's going to be quite decent in the future, to be fair. They both look decent, but I was impressed with Lewis Richardson at the weekend. All right, admittedly, he only came on and won a couple of corners, but, he showed more, desire is the right word to want to be able to do something. But
that's the only thing that is positive for us as well, is that we've got this huge new training ground that's been built.
I have seen that. It looks lovely.
It's up there with Man City's is one of the best in Europe. I mean, if we don't buy any players this season, you've got to look and go, yeah, well, that's probably where the money's gone. But what it is doing is we've got such a good squad of youngsters coming through. We've got quite a few that are out on loan at the moment. But we've got young Luke Thomas, who's been playing left back, because we had James Justin, like I say, he's injured, but he's had a great season. But, Luke Thomas has come on in that position. He's played in Europe. He's scored in Europe. So, he's a youngster, but he can play. We've got Daley Campbell, who we got in the squad from Arsenal. He's sort of still in the youth system coming through. We've got a guy called Tavares. For those of us of a certain age will know it's not the pop group. He's the player, but he's got Barcelona and Real Madrid and clubs like that are sniffing round him. And it's a question about whether we'll be able to hold on to him or not. But he looks like a talent. So we have got that youth coming through. And don't be surprised to see a couple of them playing on Wednesday night.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how Dwight McNeil came through our ranks. Obviously, he's now arguably our most creative player. Again, he's another one that's had a bit of a quiet season. Obviously, I was talking to you on your show about Chris Wood and how he's had a quiet season. But if it weren't for the injuries, Dwight McNeil wouldn't have come through and burst onto the scene that season 3 seasons ago. So fingers crossed we can find the next Dwight McNeil. But yeah, it is going to be a bit of a strange one. Fingers crossed Chris Wood is back. But I do want to talk about Chris Wood because obviously he played for you boys not so long ago. That you said he scored a goal at Turf Moor, quite a good goal. I remember the goal because I remember being quite frustrated when it went in. Is the political way of saying it. But one of the most frustrating things is every time I want to edit a picture of Chris Wood or edit a TurfCast thumbnail and put Chris Wood in it, you type in Chris Wood Burnley. It's one of the first 10 pictures that comes up. Him celebrating scoring against Burnley. Like he's been at Burnley for God knows how long. But yeah, talk to me about Chris Wood then, because he did quite well at Leicester, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we bought him, I think it was from Millwall, and I remember doing a graphic because he'd got a couple of goals. He got 6 in a game, I had him as a gunslinger, the 6 shooters in town, and we've got him, and he came as a really, really, really hot prospect. And we got promoted to the Premier League, and I believe he actually scored our first goal for Leicester back in the Premier League against Everton, got us a point. But unfortunately, Jamie Vardy was just developing at that point. He'd had a good season the season before when we got promoted. I think you came up with us that season because you finished second, I think, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Yeah, but then obviously that season we got relegated. But the game that always to me is the one that sent us down. With the game we lost against you at Turf Moor, we missed a penalty. Yeah. And then you went up the other end and scored with Jamie Vardy. Who else but Jamie
Vardy off his knee, I believe. Yeah, but no, I love Chris Wood, and I wish we'd still got him as a squad player because I think he could do a job for you. But it's always a problem. Jamie Vardy didn't start the first few games when we were in the Premier League. We had the Man United game, the 5-3. He was just, it was amazing. And the rest is history. And, we've lost Chris Wood. We lost Kramaric, who's gone to Hoffenheim. And, he played for Croatia in the World Cup final. We've let these players go because you can't not play Jamie Vardy. That's the problem. Yeah. But, no, I love Chris Wood. I still wish we'd got Chris Wood. I would love to have him in the squad. He might not play every week. I say because of Vardy, but I'd love to have him in the squad.
So I have it. Thanks to Chris from Leicester Till I Die TV for coming on the TurfCast podcast pre-game show. That was only a little snippet of the show. If you do want to watch the full show ahead of the game tonight, if you listen to this on Wednesday, then just head over to TurfCast podcast on YouTube. You can find the full show on there. But yeah, big thanks to Chris for coming on the show. Just going to start wrapping up now, but one couple of things that I do want to mention. The news is broke today on the day of recording that CEO Neil Hart has left Burnley Football Club. You were a client of yours, weren't you, Simon? I'm not saying either of us know anything that's gone on, but interesting development at the club. Only managed a couple of months under the new owners. I guess looking at what's happened, I think it's probably a case of the owners have decided they want probably their own sort of men at the football club.
Possibly. I have literally no idea. It's breaking. Hopefully we can get some information for the listeners in near time. If Neil wants to speak about it, I'll ask the questions, but that's all I can do. But yeah, he's a good guy. Promoted, worked his way up through the community team, become the director of the community team, and then got promoted to the CEO of Burnley Football Club. So he's done incredible things in a short period of time. When he came from Watford, I believe, as well with Dash. I think he worked with Dash at Watford. He worked at the community of Watford and then came up here to work there. But I'm intrigued to see where he's going to go. Wish him all the best. He's obviously done great things in a short time. And if we find out more, I'll find out for you, man.
Yeah, interesting. Neil, if you are listening, we'll be happy to have you on the show to discuss anything, really. No pressure. You don't have to. Anyone listening, you can come on if you're an ex-player and you have something good to say. I'm always looking for more guests. I've got international break coming up in a few weeks, so who knows? Some fingers in a few pies. Another thing I want to just mention, I've just quickly before I come on here, noticed that the club have asked for another fan survey. I don't know if you've seen it. I quickly did it before I came on here. And there's a lot of stuff on there. Now, I don't normally sort of like do this, but I'd encourage people to go and have a look at it to get your opinions across, because no better time to put your opinions across than when new owners are in, because they're going to have new ideas themselves. They're going to listen to people, especially when they're not from around here, because obviously they're American. So they're going to listen to people from the area who support the club. A lot of stuff that I put on mine was I feel like the club should do more to promote themselves internationally, to create an international brand, which is what me and Simon talk about all the time on the podcast. And I did mention a few things about having more content available, such as streams, it not being behind a paywall. I've discussed that many times. I don't like how it's behind a paywall. So again, I'm not saying anything that I haven't said before. So it's a very good opportunity for you to go out there and put your opinion across. I've done mine. Simon will probably do his when he remembers in about 3 weeks. And I would recommend you all go and do yours now. Simon, it's a good idea, though, isn't it? It's a good idea to get opinions of the fans.
Yeah, it's good. A little incentive there. I think it's one person could win £100 to spend at the club shop, I think it was. And there's 5.
Didn't see that.
There's 5 signed shirts available as well. So if you do the service, so it's probably worth doing. We're not selling for the club here. Fuck them. But yeah, if you want to enter it and you want to get your opinion across, it's easy just sitting and listening in it. But none of us actually have the things to get off his arse and do things about it. And now's your chance. So why not do it?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't know about that. So fingers crossed I win a prize. But at no point did it ask me for my name or phone number or anything. So I don't know how they're going to get in touch with me and tell me that I've won, unless I just didn't finish the thing. I didn't realise I didn't finish it. But at no point did it ask me for my name, number, or Clarets number or anything. So
interesting. I got it wrong, but read it. I saw it. George Poole from the. Is he on No Neighbour?
He is. Boo.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. Good lad.
George Poole, good guy. He basically commented on it, and I've seen the thread, and I'm sure he said that you can get that. So yeah, definitely worth a chance. Yeah,
well, regardless, anyway, it's worth getting your opinion across. I wasn't aware of that, but I've done it anyway. Put all my thoughts across, and I think everybody listening to this should do as well. But that's it from this week's podcast. I forgot what it was then. Neil said watch along. That's it from this week's podcast. We will be back with a watch along tomorrow. I say we, Simon. Simon's being a good lad, and he's hosting it for me. I'm working. I'm going to be sat. You are actually looking at the room where I'm working this time, guys. I'm not in my kitchen. If you're watching on YouTube, it doesn't look as entertaining as my kitchen, does it? But I'll be sat right here doing stuff for William Hill as usual. And yeah, watching the match on a small screen to the left-hand side of me. So big shout out to Simon and Jared and Kieran for doing the watch along tomorrow. And if you do enjoy the watch along, head over and you can watch it on Facebook, you can watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on Twitch as well, on my personal Twitch channel. I just put it on there to see how it would do on there. It doesn't do very well, to be honest, so I might just start doing that, but we'll see. It might end up growing, who knows. But yeah, big shout out to Simon for doing that. Big thank you to everyone for listening. And yeah, so we're back for the watch along, back for the fan reaction as well after the game. Please get your fan reactions in after the Leicester game. If you haven't done it before, please feel free. All you have to do is send it to me via WhatsApp if you know me personally, or just via turfcastpodcast@gmail.com. And then we'll get you on the fan reaction show and get you on the next podcast as well. But yeah, we'll be back for the watch along. Back for the fan reaction, match reaction. There's watch-alongs potentially coming on Saturday, but it's my son's birthday, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it again. We'll discuss that, so there might not be one on. If not, we'll see you for the next podcast, which will be out next Thursday. But thanks, everybody, for listening / watching, and we'll see you